Last hour, many will argue that Rory McIlroy may be the longest player in the game. I wouldn't argue. Last Monday, I was in Rhode Island and saw him unleash a 404-yard drive on the 11th hole at Rhode Island Country Club. For a lot of players, there are a lot of factors as to how this happens. Well, for more on how to create speed and power and distance, let's send it down to Robert Dameron.
Thanks. We're happy to say hello again to Golf Tech National Director of Instruction, Patrick Neuber, who joins us for our Morning Drive Coaches series.
Yeah.
Patrick, what are we going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about how your wrists bend in the swing. So we're going to talk about the upward bending of the wrist and the downward bending of the wrist, not the horizontal bending of your wrist. Now, it's not something you hear talked about in books or TV or DVDs.
No, it isn't.
And it's one of the most misunderstood variables of the swing. Okay, but how you do that is a huge separator in skill because it helps you manage where you hit the ground, how much spin you put on the ball, and then how fast you can swing. So you probably have this problem and you don't even know it. So we've got a cool video to tell you this story. We've got a PGA Tour player over here on the left and your typical 90 shooter on the right. We're using a system that allows us to just measure that degree of bend. So it's really sophisticated in that sense. If we play this forward a little bit, we're going to take a look at a couple different things. Where these white arrows are pointing, see this angular difference between the shaft of the club and the forearm? That degree of measurement right there is actually getting measured. So smaller numbers mean more of an upward bend, larger numbers mean more of a downward bend.
All right.
Then we're going to take a look at the differences between how good players and higher handicaps use that. So for right now, 18-degree difference between the amount of upward bend they have. So as we watch this video, let's play it forward just a little bit. It's going to stop in the downswing, and we're going to see that same trend where at this point in the swing, the tour players will still have more of an upward bend than your typical 90 shooter at that point in time. Now, before we play the video, don't play it quite yet, but I want you to watch two things, Robert, okay, especially you at home. These numbers and how they're going to change on the way down. So we're at 88 and 106. Let's play the video forward a little bit. And what you're going to recognize is that the wrists are actually going to bend downward. So you see how those numbers got much larger.
Right.
The bad golfers just typically do that earlier in the downswing. Okay. The second piece of that is that it's typically taught or thought of that the wrists need to increase the amount that they hinge all the way down. That's not what actually happens. What you really need to know is just that they do bend downwards and when to do it. Now let's play it forward a little bit more. Now we're going to see how the golfer does the wrist bends differently in the follow-through, and this is a huge separator right here.
Okay.
When you look at the tour player, when the arms are about parallel to the ground, you see how big that angle is at 132 degrees, and the shaft is actually pointed out towards the target? That's what you see the form of with PGA Tour players and long hitters. There's a 46-degree difference between the tour player and this 90 shooter. You can see how much smaller that angle is at only 88 degrees. Okay, that's like the form of the slowest swingers and the highest handicaps over there on the right.
Okay.
So if we play this one more time, we're going to take a look at a way to practice this, and then we'll get onto the mat to help you with this at home. So I would start just by bending your wrist upwards in the backswing and making a short little swing. And then when this video plays through, we're going to watch the follow through and look at a couple checkpoints along the way to help you do this right. So you'd want to stop when your arms are about parallel to the ground. You see that downward bending?
Yep.
That's the skill you got to practice, is extending that club and keeping that pointed at the target to do this right.
Well, let's put one into real-time action.
Yep, so just to review this problem real quick, if you're a 90 shooter, and again, you have trouble with hitting the ball far, even your contact, what's happening is you don't bend your wrist upwards enough. You release that or bend that down too early into the downswing, and then in the follow-through, you flick your wrist up again one more time. That's how Robert and I would hit bunker shots, but you do that with your driver. So the way to practice this is just start without a ball, is I'd make a short swing and just practice bending the wrist upwards almost as much as you can, and then hit, keeping your arms straight, wrist bent down, and the club pointed at the target. If I hit one out there, it'll look something like this. You'll see that ball fly really low, but I'm just holding that, looking for these checkpoints. Now, you're probably wondering, why does this matter? What you do out here is a representation of what actually happens at impact. So if I just bring this down to impact, when I have my wrist bent down, it helps me lean the shaft forward, which helps me hit the ground in front of the ball. It helps to minimize my loft of the club, so I don't spin the ball as much. And then when I extend my arc out there like that, it's the fastest way to swing.
Okay.
Your golfers who bend too much, have the shaft standing up facing towards the sky. If you bring that back down to impact, the handle's leaning backwards, the loft is really high, so you get a lot of spin, and again, it's the slowest way to swing.